Hello and welcome to the Nexus. Today's show, Serena Williams' epic match with an umpire and a cartoonist continues. Well, they're accused separately of being sexist and racist towards her. A double fault, surely. But is it fair to all sides? We'll take a close look at the evidence. Meanwhile, Serena's accused of cheating and tarnishing the game's image. Who can judge? Well, it should be the umpire, but today it's the court of public opinion that really counts. People like J.K. Rowling. Are they even qualified? All that and more coming up right now on The Nexus. Hello, I'm Matthew Moore, and today in The Nexus, the GOAT, the umpire and the cartoonist. Sounds like a bad joke, but few people are laughing. We're talking about that explosive US Open final and the cries of sexism and racism in the media storm that followed. Well, we'll be getting reaction from a tennis journalist, Merlisa Corbett. She's in Florida and has met Serena a couple of times and is writing a biography on the tennis star. Also, we have a former gold badge umpire, Richard Ings. He used to be Carlos Ramos' boss, and he joins us from down under. But first, quiet, please, while we take another forensic look at that fateful day in court.
Out of that astonishing U.S. Open final, Serena Williams losing to Japan's Naomi Osaka following a coaching penalty, breaking her racket, and arguing with the chair umpire.
He's an award-winning umpire. He called it like he saw it.
Violation of coaching, warning, Mrs. Williams.
And I understand why you may have thought that was coaching, but I'm telling you it's not. I don't cheat to win, I'd rather lose. I'm just letting you know.
He was getting coached. Her coach has admitted it.
Osaka. Violation, racket abuse, point penalty, Mrs. Williams.
Then she breaks her racket. That's the second violation, and that's going to cost her a point. And then she keeps going at it.
You owe me an apology. I have never cheated in my life. I have a daughter, and I stand what's right for her, and I've never cheated.
I have no idea what the fact that she has a daughter has to do with anything.
Everyone in the stands was listening to this all unfold, and it was almost like, I almost felt like a riot was going to ensue at one point.
She could have vented. She could have moved on. She didn't entirely move on. She kept going.
You will never, ever, ever be on another court of mine as long as you live. You are the liar. Stole a point from me. You're a thief, too.
Care violation, verbal abuse, gang penalty, Mrs. Williams.
They did not need to take the game at that point because she said thief.
If you follow tennis at all, you know those rules. They are inviolate.
Just because he could have doesn't mean he should have.
There are men out here that do likewise because I'm a woman. Because I'm a woman, you're going to take this away from me?
Double standard? I don't know. What do you think?
Her argument was lost the second she made it about gender.
Serena's right when she says this probably would have been handled differently if it were men playing.
He has been a fastidious rulemonger with the men, too.
The 2018 United States Open champion, Naomi Osaka.
It was just a shame for that young lady's brightest moment of her career.
The only thievery that took place was that this young girl, Naomi Osaka, was robbed of a lifetime moment she has worked her whole career toward.
Let's go through this now. We'll start with Merlisa. Merlisa, you've been writing about tennis for years. What, in your opinion, did the umpire do wrong?
I mean, he did follow the rules, and even Serena said in her post-match interview that he has a stellar reputation. But he could have diffused the situation. Serena's been playing for 2 decades, never had a co-violation for coaching. In fact, the WTA, the Women's Tour, allows on-court coaching outside of the Grand Slams. Serena has never taken it in her career, never. So when he called her for that, she seemed like startled by it because she's not used to being called for that. She considered it him calling her cheating. Her coach and his ego, yeah, he was up there doing stuff. Doesn't mean she was looking at him, but you have to understand Serena saw it as him calling her out as a cheater. And with her history at the U.S. Open, only at the U.S. Open, she never has these problems at other Grand Slams. She overreacted, but it doesn't mean that he could have diffused the situation earlier.
I just want to take a look at the rule book here, Merlisa. We've been scrolling through the 2018 official Grand Slam rule book. Players shall not receive coaching during a match. Communications of any kind between a player and a coach may be construed as coaching. Players shall not violently or with anger hit, kick or throw a racket. And players shall not at any time directly or indirectly verbally abuse any official. And verbal abuse is defined as a statement that implies dishonesty or is derogatory. And all of the above violations carry a fine of up to $20,000 each. So potentially she could have been fined $60,000, but was only fined $17,000. Don't you think, Merlisa, actually, she got off quite lightly?
Absolutely not, because you notice in the rules it says can be construed, communication between the player and the coach. She doesn't even think, she wasn't even looking at him. Even her coach says, I don't think she even saw me. Plus, this is the same Carlos Ramos who has called countless Nadal matches. Everybody knows there's been coaching from the Nadal camp. Nadal actually threatened Carlos Ramos that he would never do any of his matches again. And there was no call for boycotts from the umpires.
I just want to come back to the coach. Now, actually, you quoted the coach. Let's see exactly what he said. Now, he said, I'm honest. I was coaching. I don't think Serena looked at me, so that's why she didn't think I was coaching. But I was, like 100% of the coaches on 100% of the matches. Richard, if I can come to you. The coach there admitted he was coaching. Serena disputed that with the umpire. So was the umpire right or wrong to call that a violation?
Well, the umpire was 100% correct. There was absolutely clear signalling from Patrick towards Serena. And the rules also, it doesn't matter whether Serena sees it or not. The umpire saw the signals being given. In fact, the signals were repeated. They were very clear, very deliberate, and it was an absolute essential code violation to award.
But it was only one-way traffic, is what's being said here. Patrick may have been giving indications about what to do, but Serena wasn't actually picking them up. So why does Serena get the penalty?
Well, because the coach was involved in trying to give signals to the player. You've got to remember that the umpire can only look in one direction.
Right.
The umpire was looking at the coach. He saw the coach giving clear signals. The coach repeated the signals. The coach admitted to the signals. It was a code violation.
Yeah.
And we also need to note that it's just a warning. It's simply a warning, like a yellow card in football.
True. But Merlisa was saying, why pick on Serena when 100% of coaches do it 100% of the time? And why pick on her in a Grand Slam final? It seems like the goalposts were changing.
Well, no, not at all. I mean, for an umpire, spotting coaching can be a very difficult thing.
Right.
Umpires sometimes get the linesperson to help them. But umpires need to make that call when it's clear and obvious, because we need to remember there's another player on the other side of the net. And if that player sees the coaching going on and it wasn't called because it is Serena Williams, then that is grossly unfair.
Okay. Well, rules are rules, but Serena's objection on that day was that a man would not have been penalized in the same way.
I'm here fighting for women's rights and for women's equality and for all kinds of stuff. And for me to say thief and for him to take a game, it made me feel like it was a sexist remark. I mean, like how he's never took a game from a man because they said thief. For me, it blows my mind.
So, Merlisa, you probably have a lot of sympathy with that point of view.
Absolutely. I mean, you've seen Djokovic physically slap a umpire's arm and not get the same kind of fine or code violation. I mean, he actually physically slapped away an umpire's arm while they were looking at a mark. I mean, of course, Carlos has a stellar reputation. Yeah. What I'm saying is the reaction to it from the umpire. You cannot tell me that it's not sexist.
Well, listen, the question here then is, do umpires treat men and women players differently? Now, the New York Times published this article here, and it's a pretty liberal sort of paper. Are women penalized more than men in tennis? Data says no. Well, the paper obtained data compiled by officials at Grand Slam tournaments for the past 20 years and found that men are fined much more often for bad behavior in every category except coaching. There you go. Take a look at racket abuse. About 6 times more likely if you're a man to be penalised for racket abuse, 4 times more likely for verbal abuse. But there you go with coaching, that's the anomaly. Women are far more likely to be penalised for coaching. So Merlisa, the data tells the story, doesn't it?
No, that data is so flawed. For one, the WTA allows women to get coaching outside of the Grand Slams. That means that they're really getting penalized more for coaching because on their tour, it's actually allowed.
Right, but then shouldn't they adapt to the Grand Slam rules, which say it's not allowed?
And see, that's to me the biggest problem is the inconsistency in how things are called in tennis in general. But at Grand Slams, Naomi Osaka's coach, who was Serena's former hitting partner, he coaches too.
Richard, I mean, that data would perhaps support the umpire's position that they're fair. But it could be that the data is flawed. Perhaps it doesn't take into account the fact that men play more tennis, you know, best of 5 instead of best of 3. There are more men qualifying for some tournaments, so there's just more tennis being played. And the fact that perhaps men just are committing code violations more often. What do you think?
Well, I think it's the last point that you made.
Right.
I can give you 15 years worth of observation. I can give you observation as an umpire who's umpired both men's matches and female matches, ladies' matches. And female players follow the rules much better, much more closely than male players do.
Okay.
Female players don't break as many rackets. They don't hit as many balls around the court. They're less abusive with officials. They follow the rules. Now, for coaching, the reason the coaching numbers are higher at the Grand Slams is that the coaches are used to coaching on the WTA Tour. They turn up at the Grand Slam. The rules are different. The rules have changed. They're not used to it.
So what's the solution?
They're more likely to. Well, it would be great to have a uniform set of rules across the women's circuit.
Well, there you and Merlisa agree. Let's take a close look now at Carlos Ramos. He's known for being tough but fair. A gold badge umpire certified by the International Federation made his finals debut as a chair umpire over a decade ago, back in 2007. Now, he's reportedly the only person to have umpired a singles final match in all 4 Grand Slams. Add to that, he's umpired the men's finals at the London 2012 Olympics. Now, a well-known sports commentator in the United States says he's as tough with the men as he is with the women.
The bigger issue here was the conduct of the two. He has the luxury of saying he operated within the confines of his rules and regulations. When you go to a match, it's not just about preparing for the opponent, it's preparing for the officiating. And the reality is that she knew coming into it, because he also gave Venus Williams problems in the past. You know that he's hardcore. Her argument was lost the second she made it about gender.
Well, let's go straight to Merlisa. Merlisa, Stephen's point there is that everyone knows he's tough but fair, and whether or not coaching is tolerated by some umpires, it's not tolerated by him. Serena should have prepared for that.
That's kind of ridiculous, and Stephen doesn't cover tennis enough to know what he's talking about. Players are focused on their game. The umpires are focused on doing their job. Players don't have the luxury to I got to prepare for this umpire. They have to prepare for their game and their opponent. What Serena should have known is when to stop. She lost her cool, but like I said, considering her history at the U.S. Open, it is understandable.
Well, as we know, Serena also threatened the umpire, saying he'd never work another of her games. But the umpires aren't taking it sitting down, if you know what I mean. The Times newspaper is reporting that umpires are considering boycotting Serena's matches, but that idea has been ridiculed in some satirical quarters.
The tennis umpires can say whatever they want, that they're going to boycott Serena, but don't pretend you can actually boycott Serena Williams in tennis, because she basically is tennis. Well, the umpires are going to be like, from now on, I'm not umpiring for Serena. I'm only going to umpire games for, I want to say, Stephanie, or... Look, I don't know the other ones, but you get my point.
Yeah, and we get his point. I mean, she's certainly the biggest name in women's tennis, and some are even saying she's the GOAT, meaning the greatest of all time, from the men or the women's game. And she's won 23 Grand Slams, and she's just one away from equaling that record of Margaret Court. And over her career, she's earned more than $88 million. Let's go to Richard Ing now. Richard, would you be Scared of not officiating another Serena game if you were Carlos Ramos? Does she have that kind of power?
No, she doesn't. And I wouldn't hold it against her for saying that, because many a player in the heat of combat has said that to an umpire. It's water off a duck's back for an official.
Yeah.
Carlos did a great job in the chair. Controversial match, made some tough decisions, and he'll be back up in the chair next week working another tournament somewhere in the world.
You umpired about 50 games of John McEnroe's. I understand you penalised him a few times?
Yeah, look, at the US Open on that very court, the stadium court at Flushing Meadow, I penalised John McEnroe with a warning, a point penalty and a game penalty that cost him a set. So it doesn't matter about the gender, it doesn't matter about the race, it matters about the player and complying with the rules of the sport.
Well, Richard Ings, thank you very much. And also, Merlisa, thank you also for your contribution. We're now going to move away from these two contributors, talking about sexism in tennis, to another allegation, and that of racism. A day after the match, an Australian newspaper published this cartoon, a caricature depicting Serena, her opponent Naomi Osaka, and the umpire. Well, it proved and provoked a storm on news channels and online.
Herald Sun cartoonist Mark Knight says he's flabbergasted by worldwide condemnation of his drawing of tennis champion Serena Williams.
Serena Williams stomping on her racket and appearing to cry after spitting out a pacifier during the U.S. Open final.
Why did you paint a photo, draw a picture of this legend in our community, making her look like this? Like some sort of an animal having a temper tantrum.
Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling tweeted this: "Well done on reducing one of the greatest sportswomen alive to racist and sexist tropes."
To have J.K. Rowling trolling me is, well, it's something I didn't expect in life.
When you draw a black woman in a way that looks similar to racist cartoons from America's past, yeah, people are gonna call you a racist.
It's a caricature that harkens back to a style that was used to promote a certain narrative about black people being subhuman.
Now you see, it looks literally exactly the same.
What? Like, if you compare that cartoon to some of the stuff back in the day, you're out of your God-given mind.
I don't think I depicted her in Jim Crow style or racist overtones at all.
An image that does not look like the 23-time Grand Slam winner at all.
It's instantly recognizable, without a shadow of a doubt, as Serena Williams.
And the guy that drew it say, no, it's not racist. Let me tell you something. They don't have the authority to tell you it's not about race.
White dudes don't get to decide what racism is.
This wasn't a caricature of black women or even of angry black women. It was a caricature of one incredibly famous, incredibly powerful, incredibly rich, spoiled brat who was having a tantrum.
Osaka, who won the final, who is of mixed race, Haitian and Japanese, but who Knight, who is the artist, drew as a nearly white woman with blonde hair.
They whitewashed Naomi because they gave her blonde hair. And I'm looking at the picture, she has blonde hair.
Herald Sun is backing their cartoonist Mark Knight after his controversial depiction of Serena Williams made global headlines yesterday.
Their message is clearly that if the Serena Williams cartoon is so offensive, that means that all caricatures like these would have to be banned.
Mark's cartoon wasn't racist, it wasn't sexist.
It was about just her poor behaviour on the court, nothing to do with gender or racism at all.
Well, racist or not, we have a couple of experts, two cartoonists with us now to try to work it out. Let's go to Philadelphia and Ben Passmore, first of all. Ben, when you saw this cartoon, what's your reaction?
Well, I thought it was racist, I guess in short, in part because of the emphasis on depicting Serena Williams more as sort of like a bestial person. It didn't look like her at all. Describing her as a child, it all seemed very consistent with tendency to depict black people as rageful animals.
Did you? I mean, we're going to show a cartoon now, side by side, from a much earlier period in American history, side by side with the Mark Knight cartoon. Now, people have said, commentators in that report have said there is a shared DNA here. Did you see that?
Yeah, I do. There is a continuity, you know what I mean? There's not quite the blanched tire lips on Serena, but it's very close. it's the drawing of Serena Williams is closer to this drawing, this very racist drawing of a Pictionary character than it is to the actual Serena Williams.
What do you think, Shabnam?
I absolutely agree with Ben that this cartoon, Mark Knight's cartoon, has overtones of racism and sexism, and even compared to cartoons back in the day, there is an evolving racism that has happened when you compare those two. It's really quite clear. And what's quite scary for me is that he says it was unintended. And what more dangerous than someone who knows that they're racist is someone who doesn't know that they're subconsciously racist.
The thing is, Shabnam, and we saw in that report earlier, the amazing Lucas there, he actually took the samples of the cartoon, the Mark Knight cartoon, and did a little Photoshop analysis. And he did the skin sample there of Serena and did one of Osaka. And he actually found those two shades were the same. And he also took a look at the hair color. And as you know, the ends of Osaka's hair are blonde. And he says, well, that's how she's depicted. And maybe the artist was a little lazy in not coloring all the way up to the top. But clearly, it isn't Mark Knight painting Osaka as a white woman. It's just the way you're perceiving it, Shabnam.
No, absolutely not, because what happened to Naomi Osaka is Barbification. She looks nothing like that, from her facial features to her body that's now looking like she's, some sort of model as opposed to a healthy Haitian Japanese woman. And that's really quite clear.
But she doesn't even look like most human beings look. Perhaps that's because she's so far in the background of the drawing and is sort of an incidental figure.
No, I don't think so at all. I can absolutely see that he's drawn her the way he thinks maybe white, well-behaved, Barbie-type woman.
But if she's white, then how comes the skin color that Mark Knight used is the same as the one he used for Serena?
I think it's a little bit more than picking on elements of the cartoon. And when we look at the gross disparity between how Serena is depicted as a raging behemoth gorilla to quiet and submissive Naomi, then that gives you a much clearer picture. I mean, he himself said that he's talking about Serena's poor behavior. So, of course, the cartoon's coming out of that perception. He disagrees.
Well, it wasn't a perception. I mean, her behavior was, don't you think her behavior was pretty aggressive?
Not at all. I think she was completely dignified in the circumstances when I compare her to her white male counterparts who have actually stood with her.
Ben, when this gentleman on YouTube did an analysis and he found that the skin color of Osaka and Serena were the same, and actually that she does have blonde highlights at the end, he drew the conclusion that it wasn't really drawing Osaka as a white person, it wasn't racist. What do you think?
When sort of depicting tone or palette, contrast is just as important as the color you use. So, someone can appear lighter to the eye when you surround them in, like, say, like a blue or something. And also, I should say that both these women are much darker than the palette used.
Yes. Yeah. Why
So
do you
I
think?
should also say
Why do
that.
you think? What is that significance of that, though?
Well, I mean, cartooning is not portraiture. When you depict someone, you're trying. There's an intent. You're trying to elicit some sort of emotion, and clearly, the depiction of Osaka is a counterpoint to Serena, and the fact that she.
It's a contrast, right? I understand, both in their appearance and in their behavior. Let's take a look at Mark Knight's own previous couple of cartoons that he's put forward as his defense. Okay, we're going to take a look now at the cartoon he did of Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, who died recently. He said he was very highly praised for this cartoon. Do you think this cartoon is the right side of how to depict an African American lady?
I mean, it looks much more like Aretha. Interestingly enough, the palette is closer to her skin tone. I mean, this is not a bad drawing of Aretha. I agree that his Serena cartoon maybe was not intentionally racist, but he definitely lacks self-awareness. And I think that in modern times, a lot of the issue. I mean, while we are dealing with actual racists, actual white supremacists, there's a lot of people that I think have a harder time with more subtle racism maybe,
Well, I wanted to look at one last cartoon with you. This one is by two artists, Jack and Curtis. It's another depiction of Serena Williams. Ben, what do you make of this depiction?
I mean, her skin is darker. You know what I mean? She's
In
got
areas,
a
yes.
very serious.
In
Yeah, yeah.
areas.
I mean,
But what
it's,
about the lips and the nose, though, and the hair?
I mean, they're definitely pronounced. I will say that her hair looks kept, like the way she keeps her hair, and is not frizzy. She is not curvy. She looks serious and powerful, but not animalistic. So I do see a big difference.
Interesting observations, Ben. Now, if I were to tell you that two white South African cartoonists contributed to this, you would have the same opinion then, that it is a much better depiction of Serena?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not.
Cool. All right. Well, there we go. Ben Passmore and Shabnan Alisa Mohammed in Durban. Thank you very much for your analysis of the cartoons. Appreciate your contributions here on the Nexus. Well, that's all we have time for. Remember, you can catch this episode and all the previous ones on our YouTube channel. In the meantime, see you next week, and thank you for watching.